Welcome one, welcome all to Max's Mic. I'm Max and I have the mic, and today's episode is all about the first ever 12-team college football playoff, breaking down my picks, what I think is going to happen in the semifinal round. So let's get right into it. The two games, four teams still in. First game is going to be tonight, Notre Dame taking on the Penn State Nittany Lions. And the second game tomorrow night, Texas and Ohio State. The Horns and the world famous O. Two games that should be really good and interesting, as so far there hasn't really been. Well, I mean, Texas, Arizona was a great game, but other than that, a lot of these or all of these other games really felt like blowouts. But these two games shouldn't be. These two games should be really close, really tight, really highly competitive. And before we really get into breaking down both games, I want to put out a generalization that is a common theme amongst all four of these teams. And a common theme amongst a lot of teams that made the playoffs, although you didn't really see it, and that is the prowess of the defense. Now, while there is quite a bit of scoring in college football and tends to be, a lot of these defenses are actually really good. It's just the consistency of play plus keeping these guys healthy as you're rotating in younger, lesser experienced, not as good players. There tends to inline the scoring. However, that being said, let's get back to the fact that these teams, specifically these defenses, specifically the four remaining teams' defenses are really good, the best of the best, as it should be with the top four remaining teams. So these games aren't really going to be decided by the defense. They're going to be decided by, can the offenses go and score? And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm really going to be hitting home, what do the offenses need to do to counter the defenses, and who's more likely to do it? And my picks are going to be based on whose offense do I think has a better shot of taking on the opposing defense. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the Texas versus Ohio State game. Ohio State coming into this one on a 2-game burner streak, absolutely plowing through the competition, taking out Tennessee and the number 1 seed Oregon like it was nothing. Coming into the playoffs, Ohio State lost their last game of the regular season to Michigan, their big rivals, in a really devastating fashion, as Ohio State struggled to really get anything going on offense and defensively. While they stood strong, especially in the red zone, which is what they've done all season, they really seemed to collapse against the run, something they've struggled with against Michigan for the last 4 years, which is why Michigan's won for the last 4 years. However, it seems like they've really cleaned up their defense, especially that run defense has really stood up. Now, though, they've got a big challenge, as they're going to face a team that consists of two solid, really strong running backs, Blue and Wisner, as well as a team that consists of a quarterback in Arch Manning, the backup, who can come into the game and run it, and actually can kind of run a scheme like what Michigan ran. I mean, they really can. They've got a solid passing quarterback and some good receivers. And then they've got two strong running backs. And then they've got a quarterback that can come in and run the ball. So Texas, in a way, is like a better Michigan. Now, what Michigan did, first we'll start defensively, what they did that made them so good was, first of all, they stopped the run game of Ohio State, something neither Tennessee nor Oregon were able to do. If you can stop the run game, then you can limit the safety belt for Ohio State, as Ohio State was confident that they could get their running backs to run a ball for 4 or 5 yards on a carry. And although Ohio State is a real pass-first offense, if you have that ability to run the ball for 4 or 5 yards every single play, then you can have the confidence to throw it deep for 2 plays, or for a play, and then throw a short route, and then you run the ball on 3rd down instead of it doing the opposite, running it on 1st and 2nd and then throwing on 3rd. Ohio State's a pass-first team with three really good receivers, although two are really only talked about: Jeremiah Smith, the freshman, and Emeka Ibuka, who I believe has announced he's going to the draft. I'm not fully sure about that, but he probably will be, and he will be a top wide receiver. But another receiver that's on this Ohio State team that doesn't really get as much notice, however, always seems to, when needed, step up and make an impactful play. Cardell Tate, another really good receiver for Ohio State. So they've really got three really good receivers, really great, fast route running receivers. So you can't really play zone against these guys because they're just going to find the holes. And if you play man and you're playing press coverage, you're playing too tight, they're going to run past you. If you give them too much space, though, off the line, they're just going to run around short underneath you. So what you've really got to do is you've got to get home. You've got to have enough defenders deep to be able to cover all the receivers, plus have some guys there to help. But you also are going to need to get pressure on Will Howard. And Michigan, they, with Kenneth Grant and the amazing rest of that defensive line, were able to only rush 4 guys and get pressure equivalent to some of these teams that were rushing 6 guys. Excuse me. So Michigan was able to get that pressure on, something that Tennessee and Oregon weren't able to consistently do. And that is why Ohio State rolled through Tennessee and Oregon, but not Michigan. Something else is the turnover game, and Will Howard has really cleaned it up. He's a guy, and Gus Johnson, if you go back to that Michigan game, talked about it. Will Howard is a great embodiment of the whole goldfish mentality. The idea that you are a goldfish on the field in which you only have enough of a memory to remember 10 minutes and then you forget it. The idea behind that philosophy is you go out there, you make a mistake, you throw an interception, you move on, you forget about it, and you go out and make the next play. Now, obviously, you need to learn from your mistakes, but the idea behind it is still solid, and Will Howard has done a great job of that. However, Tennessee and Oregon really weren't forcing the interceptions and the pressure that Michigan had. So for Texas in this one, really offensively limit the turnovers, don't give Ohio State the momentum, and defensively, you've got to find a way to get home pressure. You've got to get to Will Howard, and you cannot let him even have so much as 4 seconds in the pocket. You've got to try to get pressure on him within 3 seconds. Because if you go back to the past games, by that 4-second mark, he's already hit Jeremiah Smith 40 yards down the field for a touchdown. So you've got to get home the pressure. You've got to stop the run game, and you can't just let them have that safety belt. But you also can't blitz every play, and I also don't think that I think you've got to run man against these guys. I don't think zone. I think these guys are too good of receivers, and there's too good route running receivers on this team to really be able to efficiently run a zone defense. So for Texas, defensively, that's what they've got to do. Ohio State offensively, they've just got to continue to run their game, keep up the momentum. Now, on the other side, for Texas offensively, you've got to stick to the run game. This Ohio State defense, here's how they kind of work. They've got a great O-line that can bring a lot of pressure on the pass rush. However, on the run defense, the D-line, but on the run defense, the defensive line isn't that good. So what Ohio State does is they bring a couple extra guys into the box to stop the run. However, when they do that, they leave themselves vulnerable to a short or a play action type play, a pass play, an RPO, something like that. What Michigan was able to do was run. Then Ohio State brings some guys into the box, and now that opened them up to the passing game. What Tennessee and Oregon couldn't do was get their running games going to the point where Ohio State was able to confidently not stuff the box and not put a ton of guys down low anticipating the run game, because Oregon and Tennessee couldn't run the ball against Ohio State. And then when both of those teams tried to throw the ball against Ohio State, it didn't work because Ohio State was basically sitting past, and if it was a run, they had the confidence they were going to stop it. So for Texas, Continue to use your guys, but in the passing game, spread the ball around. Don't stick to one guy. Golden's been really good as of late. Isaiah Bond, let's not forget about him. He's a great receiver and has been open a lot of times even when the ball has not been thrown to him, but he's been available there. So keep the ball moving around, keep him moving, move with a little bit of tempo. Don't let Ohio State get settled. They can be flustered relatively easily, and just stick to your guns, stick to your game plan. Who do I think is going to win? Well, Texas has looked really good this season, and, Texas also did manhandle Michigan, something that Ohio State couldn't do. Now, granted, those games were at opposite polar ends of the season, but also since that game, Texas has realized they've got a solid backup quarterback in Arch Manning, something that they had an idea but weren't really confident until he got the playing time. Texas has also developed a really solid two-man backfield. So I think Texas has made a lot of improvements, and while Ohio State has definitely improved since that Michigan game and has a lot of fire under them, I think this is at the end of the road for them. I just think that Texas is going to be able to execute their run offense better than better than Oregon or Tennessee has done against Ohio State, and better than Ohio State will be able to execute their offense against a really solid Texas secondary that, if we do not forget, forced the interception and won the game for Texas last time out. So give me Texas to win this one. Moving on, Notre Dame and Penn State. And this is going to be, I think, the better of the two games. I think that Ohio State, Texas could easily turn into a blowout either way. Could. I don't think it will, but could. This game, though, between Notre Dame and Penn State, I don't think will turn into that sort of a blowout, as both teams' defenses are the leading factor in their success this season. Both teams' offenses have struggled a little bit, especially Penn State down towards the end of the season. In the Big Ten championship game, they were a little iffy. Against SMU, the offense was a little iffy, but the defense really just carried through that game. Then against Boise State, it was, again, the defense forcing the turnovers, forcing or preventing the run of Ashton Jeanty that really was the difference maker. So, again, coming into this one, the inconsistency of the offense I am nervous about. I am nervous about the fact that, again, kind of like Ohio State, Penn State's run game is what really opens up their passing game, and their trickery and their full playbook. Is being able to execute the run game allows Penn State to open up their playbook of tricks, open up their playbook, and be able to use everything that is there in full force. Without the run game, they can't really execute everything else that they want to do. Notre Dame this season, especially within the last two games, has been stellar against the run, holding, I believe, Trevor Etienne 11 carries for 38 yards. Trevor Etienne, one of the better running backs in the league, held him to nothing. And quite frankly, yes, Penn State also held Ashton Jeanty to nothing, and Ashton Jeanty's the better running back. But when you put things into perspective, Penn State relies more on the run in their offense than Notre Dame does. I feel Notre Dame is a bit more of a passing offense than Penn State. So Notre Dame unable to run the ball, I don't think really will make too much of a difference. Obviously, if you just simply can't run the ball in any sort of game, you're going to struggle. So having some sort of a run game is important, but it's not as relied upon in Notre Dame as it is with Penn State and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, two really good tandem running backs. So for Notre Dame, it's going to be a challenge to stop them. I think they will stop them. I think that this Notre Dame defense is phenomenal. Definitely one of the better, up there with Texas and Michigan as top defenses in this league. I think they're right around the same level as Ohio State. I think this Notre Dame defense is really good. And while the offense, on the other hand, has not shown as dominant play as the defense has, I believe will be able to outmatch the Penn State offense. And I'm going with Notre Dame to win this game. I think that Notre Dame will be able to find a way to shut down the Penn State run game. I think Notre Dame will be able to find a way to get their passing going efficiently enough to find some holes. Now, you've got to be aware, Abdul Carter coming off the edge. This guy is red hot and fast. His jump off the line is so quick that every time I watch him, probably about 99% of the time, I think he's offsides or false starting. Yet somehow when you slow it down, he's just about a tenth of a second behind the ball, which means he's a tenth of a second in the right and not offsides or false starting. But it's that close. He is that good off the line. Swim move, spin move. Even the bull rush is efficient. He's really the best edge rusher in the league right now. And they've also got some good D tackles on that line, but the secondary's been a little iffy. The offense has been semi-inconsistent, and really, if you just look through the college football playoff, Penn State's won in blowout fashion, but it's all been the defense forcing turnovers. I believe the defense has 3 interceptions, pretty sure in both games that they have played in the college football playoff, and that doesn't include the fumbles forced. So it's really this Penn State team's really relying on their defense to make the plays rather than their offense to just be able to keep scoring and take advantage. And you need to take advantage of the turnover game. So if Notre Dame can just limit the turnovers, limit the interceptions, I think they're going to be able to defeat Penn State. So in the end, my college football championship game will be, if I'm correct, Texas and Notre Dame. Enjoy the games, everybody. One tonight, that is going to be Penn State, Notre Dame, and then tomorrow, Texas, Ohio State. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, back on this YouTube channel, will be my predictions for the NFL playoffs. Sorry, hold a second. I had a hiccup. NFL playoffs. And yes, I will be pre-recording that in a few minutes, so I'm going to be wearing the same thing. Stay tuned to that video. Will be coming out tomorrow. Enjoy the great week of football and also in New York sports tonight. Devils and the Rangers will be playing. Enjoy that game as well. Enjoy your days. Have a good one, everybody. Take care and goodbye. See you tomorrow.